Come on, come in. Welcome, welcome.
Hello, everyone. What's going on? Man, it is hot in my room. I need to turn the AC on, but I can't because the AC makes it too loud in here. Norway, I'm so bummed. This is the final. This is the semifinal that everyone kind of predicted. Maybe England not in there, but kind of. But yeah, everyone was kind of predicting this. Monty, what's up? Long time no see. Attila, what's up? How are you? How's it going, guys? Full cast audiobook of Dracula makes it easier to follow. I'm hot and cold about full cast audiobooks. The full cast Harry Potter audiobook is good, but it's a little distracting at times. There's some people who are great. There's some people who are not great in that one. Like, weirdly, maybe this isn't like a hot take, but I think that audiobooks should probably still be read by one person. I think that's such like a natural thing that humans feel, like being told a story to by one person. Even if one person does a voice, even if one person does 500 voices, you can still notice it's that one person. So I kind of feel like it just works better with one person than a multicast. The multicast Harry Potter one is great, but it's just almost like I felt myself a little bit too overstimulated sometimes with it. There's so many noises going on in different directions, and I don't think noises alone would just cut it out. But it was just too many voices you had to like recognize, I guess. I don't know. I didn't get into the story as much. Still good, but maybe a little too overblown. Jude Bellingham for life. First stream as a civvy. Oh, Mr. Donato, welcome to civilization life. Civilian life. Welcome to civilian life. That's awesome. Congrats on that. Cecilia, hello. What's up? All the teams you like, I know. And it's so sad about the guy from the South African team. It's a bummer. Cecilia, I saw your name and thought of that. Yeah, I kind of like both, but I like a single person reading it more than I like a multiple person. First time that the FIFA top 4 ranked playing the semifinals. That's crazy. I didn't know they were 1, 2, 3, 4. That's kind of crazy. I feel like that's crazy rare. Only ever happened once. Wes, you all right, bud? Hey, you okay? He was laying on the bed. He looked a little sad. Oh, you're a cutie. Jude Bellingham, man, England's savior right now. Looking forward to seeing what he thinks about what. No spoilers, but I think that is quite a bit different from the film, from what you understand. Is there a full cast Lord of the Rings? I don't think there's a full cast Lord of the Rings book, is there? Yeah, I saw them all singing "Hey Jude." That was kind of great. Honestly, doing a full cast Lord of the Rings audiobook, that'd be kind of fun with just random normal people. My brother is listening to Lord of the Rings, and he couldn't listen to Andy Serkis anymore. He said it was just grating on him. He just did not like Andy Serkis at all. So he's listening to the other guy. Forgot his name. Well, I think it's okay when one person does a full cast. Like, obviously, if you're reading an audiobook, you have to do the voices. But still, intuitively, in a human's brain, when you listen to Andy Serkis and he does all the voices, you still know it's Andy Serkis behind the voices. Even if he's trying to do another person's voice. Like, if I tried to do another person's voice, you'd still know it's me acting and doing another person's voice. I keep hearing about the BBC audio dramas of it. They're not exactly right. They're not like the actual books, but they're full cast plays. Interesting. Yeah, I gotta get those. I think someone sent those to me. I gotta find that again and just listen because I hear they're great. Yeah, I feel like there's almost something evolutionary about like one person reading it to you that humans can't get away from. Like I don't know that many stories that are told to me in like a written format like that that are multiple people using voices. It just seems so new. My like brain couldn't comprehend that to start. Thorin does audiobooks. Interesting. He does good detective novels. I love that. Good for him. I feel like that's kind of true. Like a good old man, some like who's someone good who could read The Lord of the Rings. Honestly, not just because he's one of my favorite actors and because I think that he should play every role of an old man, but I think Ian Glenn would read that really well. Ian Glenn is one of my favorite actors. I think he's so good in everything he does. I think he'd be really good at reading that. He's such a good voice too. There's a bunch of different people I think would be good at that, but he's just one of those voices. Some people just have the voice for it, you know. There are Narnia audio dramas. You know what? When I was in college, there was a guy who drove the shuttle. One of my buddies in college. He drove the shuttle from different dorms to like, different places on campus. And I had to take the shuttle every so often. And he used to be listening anytime he would be driving the shuttle, he would listen to the Narnia series. And he said like people would get into the shuttle and they'd do like a round with him and they'd get to their destination and they didn't actually leave the shuttle because they were so into the audiobook at that time. I love that. Everyone else would be playing music and you'd get into Wayne's shuttle and he'd just be listening to the full Narnia audiobook. And I still remember that. I would get in a few times and Narnia was playing. I think that's such a good idea. I would probably do that now. Um yeah, I think there has to be like a level of, I don't know, over dramatization isn't necessarily the worst thing. I think Circus's voice, it's like the whole thing is one big vocal fry. So it's intense, but you can't like or get rid of the intensity. Some of the more heartfelt scenes, I don't know. Kate Winslet would be pretty good too. John Huston, who's John Huston? He's dead. He was Gandalf. John Huston. Ooh, he just looks like Gandalf. I don't know what his voice sounds like, but he just looks like he'd be he'd be good. He's in a bunch of old movies that I've never seen. He was in Moby Dick. Never saw that, but it's one of the books I want to read soon. Also, anybody read this? I'm maybe an eighth of the way through this bad boy. I don't know if you can see it. The Count of Monte Cristo. Dang, it's a good book. It's a really good book. Hold on one second. I have someone calling me. I gotta mute you guys. Hey. All right, we're good. Sorry. We're back. Andy Serkis just called me. It's a big business deal going on, guys. Yeah. Yeah, I said, come on, I'm streaming. The Count of Monte Cristo so far is good. It's so good. I keep thinking about it all the time. But I keep having questions in my head because I don't think it's like necessarily the most well-written book. It's good, but I don't know. Like parts of me think that it's hard to realize the scope of how good of an author is if you don't read their language. Like I don't know French, so I can't really get an estimate on how well of a writer, how good of a writer he is. Yeah, a lot of people have the abridged version. I don't love reading abridged versions, but sometimes I actually think abridged versions are better versions because stories evolve and you don't necessarily need a lot of that information that you have. Actually, sorry, give me one more second. I'm gonna turn the AC on for my dog because he's just chilling there panting a little bit. Give me 2 seconds. Man, we are distracted right now. Tolkien's English is exceptional. Wait, why is my desktop audio on? Is my mic working? Wait. What the heck happened there? Why is my desktop audio working right here? Oh, that's why. I clicked the wrong button. Was I doubled there for a second? Okay, now we're good. Sorry, OBS just freaked me out for a second. I clicked the wrong button, but it still worked because I had headphones on. I hope that audio wasn't bad. Anyway, Tolkien is just a great writer. Like his sentence structure is incredible. The Count of Monte Cristo is interesting. It's more like the sentence structure is good, but it is very like story oriented for that. It's not like Tolkien where he's like trying to impress you maybe a bit more with the sentences. But I don't know. What's a bit disrespectful? Someone calling about my extended warranty. Probably was. Yeah, Monte Cristo, it's great. Really, really enjoying it. But also, I'm reading Dune. Well, let's go through my reading real quick. I'm 3 chapters into this bad boy. And if you want, you can follow all the channels. All the channels are, I think, in the description of the first timers thing. They're all in their first timers. Dune, 3 chapters in, and it's interesting. It's really philosophical. I like it, but it's a different read. The writing is not incredibly impressive, but I am enjoying it. Yeah, Nemo, I have to learn French too, but I don't. Everyone knows what I think about the French, no, the French language. It's too difficult to learn. Dune so far, 3 chapters in, I'm really enjoying it, but it's a different read. I kind of have to like prep myself for it. This is The Way of Kings. Interesting story. Not the best written book in the world, but he's getting better. I think this book, writing wise, is the French is censored. I know, I kind of do. It's a little sick, Cecilia. But I just do a lot of reading, so it's just fun to just chat about books that I like. The Way of Kings, not the best written book. Interesting storyline though. It's just keeping my attention with like the pure fantasy of it. I don't really know what's going on or what's happening, but I find myself wanting to keep reading it. Game of Thrones is probably other than the Hobbit, and then other than the Count of Monte Cristo, is probably the next best book that I'm reading. I haven't picked this up in like a week, unfortunately, because time has been crazy this last week. But I would say this is like about a 70% of what The Lord of the Rings is. Really interesting world so far. He is a good writer. I think he's not as good as Tolkien, obviously, but he is still a very good writer. I think people discount his work a little bit too much. I'm really enjoying his writing. I think that he's a very good story writer. And I think that his sentences are very good too, in a way that like Brandon Sanderson I think struggles for sentences. I think George R. R. Martin knows the pacing of a story a little bit more than Sanderson, or a lot more than Sanderson, and not quite as good as a Tolkien. So a little bit back and forth in that. But how you guys doing? How's everyone doing? We're gonna start reading the Hobbit soon. Some of these chapters are really short that we're coming up to, so there might be some Sundays or some live reads that we do that we actually do 2. A Warm Welcome, I think, is like 20 pages, maybe a little less, like 15 pages. It's about 15 pages, but the next chapter, At the Doorstep, I think is 10, and then Inside Information, that's actually a long chapter. So maybe we'll do 2. Like some of the later ones are short, so we might do like 2 chapters in one sitting, but I don't know. I'm debating in my mind if we're going to do that or not. Maybe we'll just keep it at 1. But this is chapter 10, A Warm Welcome. We're going to start reading in a second. So, will we ever see the Winds of Winter? I don't know. I don't know. Planning to buy a Penguin Classic version of the Count of Monte Cristo after you finish the Old Man and the Sea. Ooh, love that. The Count of Monte Cristo is such a fun book right now. It's incredible. 8 hours of Dune on an audiobook on YouTube. How was it? I have made a few videos on Dune. I'm supposed to be doing Dune with Lizzie and Danny, but they haven't done anything for it yet. So let me paste a link if any of you actually want to subscribe to that channel. It's just called First Truth Sayers. I'm doing FT for everything. So that one's First Truth Sayers. It's hard to say 5 times fast. And then the other channel is First Throner. It's the first Game of Thrones first time channel. I have way too many channels. I don't know how to synthesize stuff. I have too many things I like. If you want. I've made a few videos on Dune so far. Compared Dune to Lord of the Rings too. You just finished A Feast of Crows today. The show didn't even try to adapt this book. Really? That's why I'm interested to get to the later A Song of Ice and Fire stuff, because yeah, I think that the books and the show are gonna just have a huge divulgence. Afrikaans literature, I love that. Yeah, we've corrupted you with our English language. I'm sorry. His world building is good. His language is far worse, though. I kind of agree with that. Yeah, I mean, he's not like a language scholar. He's not a linguist. He just created a really interesting world. So his world building rivals, maybe not. Actually, no, it doesn't necessarily rival Tolkien. I don't think anybody rivals Tolkien. It was funny because I was looking. Oh, 1 second. Now I'm getting. Oh, we're good. I was checking out. Or a video came across my feed. You guys know this is going to be a weird side quest we're going to go on for a second. Do you guys know who Katie Ledecky is? Maybe the most dominant athlete in sports, legitimately maybe of all time, since Joey Chestnut. Anybody know who Joey Chestnut is? The next Count of Monte Cristo stream is going to be Tuesday, either morning or afternoon. I don't know when, but Tuesday, either morning or afternoon. Potentially Monday night, but I don't think Monday night. Yes, the swimmer. Like, she is so dominant in her sport. There's no one that comes close to her. Like, people compare her to like Michael Phelps, but she is not like, she's like, Michael Phelps isn't in the same league as Katie Ledecky. Like, her and Michael Phelps have raced in long distance races, and she's beaten Michael Phelps in them. She's the most freakish, incredible athlete. Like, people don't know enough. People don't know how good she is. She is the J.R. Tolkien of swimming. Like, no one comes close to her. Like, every other comparison is just like not there. But I do think George R. R. Martin is a better writer than like a lot of people give him credit for. He's not the linguist. He doesn't have the histories that Tolkien really created, because Tolkien had all this stuff in his head and he created the stuff, and then he wrote the Lord of the Rings, whereas George R. R. Martin wrote his whole entire thing, and then he's coming up with histories now to kind of fit into it. So he's doing it in reverse. But dang, like, I do think that he's a good writer. I actually do think Frank Herbert's a good writer too. I'm more impressed with Frank Herbert's writing because maybe I came to it with really low expectations because a lot of people have kind of complained about that, saying that it's not that good. And I'm finding that it's more entertaining and more enjoyable than I thought it was going to be. It's not like a Lord of the Rings. I don't know if I'll ever get that into another book like Lord of the Rings, but I mean, The Count of Monte Cristo, it's great. Follow the Classics channel. Yeah, if you want to follow the Classics channel, I have way too many channels, guys. Hold on. Oh, it just alerted me that I was live streaming. That's nice. Here's the Classics channel. This one's going to be more like a general books channel. Eventually, when some of the channels ebb out a little bit, that one will just be like on books, the books that I'm reading, the classics that I'm reading. Just like less essays, but maybe like an essay a week on whatever I'm thinking and feeling. You have a crush on Katie? Yeah. Ooh, you brought the old Toby. Excellent. Love that. Game of Thrones left out a lot of magic. Yeah, Game of Thrones does have like even the first few pages, first few chapters that I'm in Game of Thrones. I'm halfway through the first book. It's different from book to series. It's really interesting. I'm glad you guys like the videos. That makes me happy. Over the next few months, I might have to scale down some of the video stuff. I'm gonna have to go actually work, potentially do some other stuff. So I might have to scale down. But when we get to the Silmarillion, it might be like 1 or 2 videos a week rather than every other day, which I'm doing now. But I've kind of scaled down a little bit since then. Yeah, no, everyone's behind in the video, so it doesn't it doesn't necessarily matter that much anyway. I publish faster than most people can watch. But anyway, we'll start at 1:45. That's like kind of been our thing. Chat for a half hour and then we read. But yeah, I'm reading some good books. Some good books popping out. I'm gonna go through them slow. They're really enjoyable. I'm really liking them. Honestly, everything that I'm reading right now is kind of fun. And that's a rare space to be completely honest. Yeah, Nemo, I'm with you too. There is a crazy amount of symbolism. I feel like everything that George R. R. Martin writes, there's something behind it. Like every sentence feels loaded in a different way from a Brandon Sanderson sentence. When I read a Brandon Sanderson sentence, I'm like, first of all, sometimes I have to reread it because I'm not the greatest sentence writer. But I read a sentence of Brandon Sanderson and it like goes over my head. I'm like, what does this even mean? With George R. R. Martin, he writes a sentence and it has symbolic meaning, but it doesn't have like literal meaning in the actual. Well, it does, but it doesn't have like it's not going to foreshadow something. Well, it does, but it's more like prophetic and it's more prophetic and symbolic, which I really like because it makes you come up with random theories for things. It's kind of fun. Yeah, Anava. No one's ever late. Yeah, I always just take a long time to just chat before. Interesting. George R. R. Martin's symbolism compared to Rowling's symbolism. I would say Martin's a little bit better at being a bit more subtle. She's writing a children's book. I don't think that that's an apt comparison between the two. One has to be maybe a bit more on the nose to some extent. Maybe not. Some of the symbolism in The Hobbit is a little bit more on the nose than Lord of the Rings because it's a children's story. You kind of do that for those things. How good is Sanderson actually? I don't know. I think that I think a lot of people do discount Brandon Sanderson as just not being a very good writer. I do think that he has a lot to offer in the world of fantasy. I mean, like I am right now. So here's the thing that is an unfair comparison. I am reading George R. R. Martin. I am reading J.R.R. Tolkien. I am reading Alexander Dumas. I am reading Frank Herbert, and then I'm reading Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson is the worst writer out of the group of those. But most other people aren't reading Sanderson in conjunction with those other writers. They're reading like, Fourth Wing or whatever those other books that are coming out are. If you are reading some of those other books, I think Brandon Sanderson would probably be preeminent or prominent, not preeminent, prominent among those writers and among those groups. I think that I think as far as fantasy is concerned today. Oh, I actually have another thing that I need to talk about because I saw a video that I need to have a discussion with you guys about because I don't know if anybody's ever read the series, but I saw something that was very hot takey. As far as a lot of other fantasy writers today, I think Sanderson probably is one of the better ones. The top 1% of fantasy writers, not just because of his sales, but because I guess his like production, how much he actually pumps out. And Brandon Sanderson does something that a lot of other authors do not do, which is finish well. I mean, finish just period. But finish well. Okay, here's a hot take that I saw. I saw a video of people ranking, this one person was ranking their favorite fantasy series, or the series that they thought were the greatest ever written. They put Brandon Sanderson's at like 8. I think they put A Song of Ice and Fire at like 4. And then I'm expecting to keep scrolling, swiping and seeing, obviously, J.R. Tolkien at number 1. J.R. Tolkien was number 2. Number 1 is a series that while I am reading Brandon Sanderson, a lot of people tell me that I need to stop reading Sanderson and read this series. Malzapan? I forgot. I think that's what it was called. Not marzipan. Google. Malzapan. I think that's what it was. Malazan. It wasn't actually a video. It was a quick short that you just swiped by off of. Malazan is a beast. So it's just popular? Is it good? Malazan, Book of the Fallen? The complete Malazan, Book of the Fallen. This is like overblown stuff sometimes. Nemo, where are you moving? Come to America. Come to New York City, guys. Everyone come to New York City. Rowling had so many things that you can only realize when you know the original works. Like the whole thing with the Centaur is just so deep. Yeah, I do think that she's better and deeper than a lot of people give her credit for. I am going to say that. But I think she's a great children's writer. I do think she's a good writer. I think people discredit her a lot for recent stuff that she's been saying, but I think she's a good writer. I've never read By Blood, By Salt. That sounds like a good title, though. Sounds interesting. So Malazan, yeah, well, sorry, we're going to, I keep saying 5 minutes, but 2 more minutes. Because I want to talk about this book real quick. Malazan is fantastic. Talk about world building, but it's not easy. Maybe that was the thing. Maybe it was the best worlds, the best built worlds. That was maybe the video, rather than best series. Maybe it was that. So this is yeah, Steven Erikson. It sounds interesting. I don't know what it's about necessarily. Yeah, that's what when we're finished reading Dune, I want that channel to essentially become the sci-fi channel. And then when I am finished with a Game of Thrones, in 15 years, when I probably am able to finish it, that's going to be the general fantasy the fantasy channel. And then I'll probably synthesize some of the other channels. The first time readers one is just going to be like fun reads that I'm reading. And the classics one will always be the classics. Moving for my PhD to a different city. Nice. Okay, not America yet. That's all right. We don't really have the greatest PhD programs. Well, we do have some good PhD programs, but yeah, I don't know. After Dune, I might do some Star Wars. I think that's kind of the thing. Yes, reading Dune on the Dune channel. I'll find that link. No, don't remove the message. Come on, just let me highlight it. Do I have to go back? There we go. I made it quick. Here's the Dune channel. I'll cross post on like an actual post somewhere. We're called First Truth Sayers. I've heard the Sun Eater series is great too. We'll get there. We'll get to all those. I don't think I'm going to read all of Dune. I think I'm going to read the first 3 and then gauge to see if I want to read the next 3. I probably will stop at 6 because that's after, what's his name? That's after Frank Herbert died and his sons picked it up or something. Yeah, maybe I got to list that on the main channel. Maybe I haven't because it's a new one. We'll see. I'll figure that out. All right, let's start chapter 10, A Warm Welcome. Critical Dragon, run by a person with a PhD in fantasy. That is exactly the kind of stuff that I want right now. A Critical Dragon? Let me look this up right now. A Critical Dragon comes up 3rd. Critic. Ooh, small channel 2. I love this. Does he just do interviews? He does a lot of Malazan. So I feel like I need to start that series. I'm not gonna start it yet. I say that, and that's gonna be like in a few years that I actually start it. Excellent. Everyone subscribe to that channel. That looks great. Freelance editor. Ooh, comes from an editor perspective. Ooh, that's right up my alley. Thank you, Nemo. Appreciate it. I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited to do some Star Wars too. People who like Star Wars literature really like it. Some is good, some is bad. It's just a lot of stuff, but I'm kind of excited to dip into that. I do love the Star Wars universe. It's a lot, but I do love it. Oh, he's a developmental editor. Okay, interesting. Huh. Someone once told me that they were like, hey, I think you actually specifically would like A Winter's Tale, but I have not read it yet. There's too many books out there, guys. I'm gonna start a new YouTube channel for every book that I'm reading. That'd be ridiculous. All right, I've delayed long enough. The people who love Tolkien are getting angry at me right now for not starting. Okay, so let's give it a shot. This is chapter 10, A Warm Welcome. Last week, Tolkien left us with this sentence, this paragraph. They had escaped the dungeons of the king and were through the wood, but whether alive or dead remains to be seen. Dun dun dun. So they might be dead. We'll see. Imagine the next paragraph goes, all the dwarves had died in their barrels. This is chapter 10, A Warm Welcome. The day grew lighter and warmer as they floated along. After a while, the river rounded a steep shoulder of land that came down upon their left. Under its rocky feet, like an inland cliff, the deepest stream had flowed, lapping and bubbling. Suddenly, the cliff fell away. The shores sank. The trees ended. Then Bilbo saw a sight. The lands opened wide about him, filled with the waters of the river, which broke up and wandered in about 100 winding courses, or halted in marshes and pools, dotted with isles on every side. But still a strong water flowed on steadily through the midst. And far away, its dark head in a torn cloud, there loomed the mountain. Huh, that's a good image. Its dark head in a torn cloud. Its nearest neighbors to the northeast, and the tumbled land that joined it to them could not be seen. All alone, it rose and looked across the marshes to the forest. The lonely mountain. Bilbo had come far, and through many adventures to see it. And now, he did not like the look of it in the least. Oh, interesting! Huh. That's actually a fascinating thing. You go all that way thinking about this lonely mountain, and all of a sudden you see it and you just don't like it at all when your expectations don't meet reality. Hmm. Yeah, for Star Wars stuff, I'm going to start the OG stuff, yeah. OG EU. Until I'm with you. There's too many good books out there. It's so annoying that there's so many good books and not enough time to read them all. Yeah, everyone, that's like the free bingo card though. Every time I say interesting, everyone just fills it in automatically. Also, everyone liked the stream. I forgot to mention that. Like the stream, people. How dare I not mention that? Can't believe I forgot that. As you listen to the talk of the raftmen and piece together the scraps of information they let fall, he soon realized that he was very fortunate ever to have seen it at all, even from this distance. Dreary as had been his imprisonment, and unpleasant as was his position, to say nothing of the poor dwarves underneath him, still he had been more lucky than he had guessed. The talk was all of the trade that came and went on the waterways and the growth of the traffic on the river. As the roads out of the east toward Mirkwood vanished or fell into disuse, and the bickerings of the lakemen and the wood elves about the upkeep of the forest river, and the care of the banks. Those lands had changed much since the days when dwarves dwelt in the mountain. Days which most people had now remembered only as a very shadowy tradition. They had changed even in recent years, and since the last news that Gandalf had of them. Great floods and rains had swollen the waters that flowed east, and there had been an earthquake or two. Probably a dragon, which some were inclined to attribute to the dragon, alluding to him chiefly. That is a typical moment right there of just read and find out, John. Alluding to him chiefly with a curse and an ominous nod in the direction of the mountain. What would he be doing that he would cause an earthquake? What do the tectonic plates of Middle Earth look like? Is the Lonely Mountain on a fault? Okay, so we probably I'm sure that the Misty Mountains are one of the plates, like a little, tectonic plate. He farted. Honestly, maybe. That'd be like a little tornado. Maybe there's one little plate right by the Lonely Mountain. Freestanding mountains like that are so weird. They don't make sense to me. Geologically, like Kilimanjaro. Where the heck did Kilimanjaro come from, if not from a tectonic plate? I guess it's kind of on a tectonic plate, and it just moved. Yeah, I mean, that's the Rift Valley, so that's kind of technology, or a tectonic plate. Yeah, volcanic activity, that's true. Duh. I'm an idiot. Maybe ooh, that's actually interesting too, because the Lonely Mountain probably isn't a volcano, but it kind of is right now. Because there's a fire breather in there. Dormant volcanoes, probably. Best not to contemplate tectonic plates in Middle Earth. I don't think that was Tolkien's primary motive right there. All right, well, let's keep reading. The marshes and bogs had spread wider and wider on either side. I feel like I want to make a video about the tectonic plates in Middle Earth. No one would watch that, but I feel like it'd be interesting. Tectonic activity in geology. That's what my note was before. Hold on. Wait, no, I wrote that. Oh, that's okay. I had a note when. Wait, let me do this. This is annoying. I had a note in the Count of Monte Cristo that I wrote as something about ME, and I said, why did I write that note? That note makes no sense. And I just did that in my note right now, the geology of Middle Earth. And I go, wow, what a weird little deja vu moment. Let me find out what my note was, because that was bothering me for a week. I couldn't figure out what the heck I wrote, what that note was about. I wrote, because there's a one chapter in the Count of Monte Cristo that is a depiction of Napoleon and his 100 days. And I wrote, who is Napoleon like in ME in the Middle Earth? Which I don't even know why I wrote that note. It's a weird note to write. I feel like everything that I think about now, I think about Lord of the Rings. So it doesn't matter what I'm reading. It is all Lord of the Rings. I just directly think of Lord of the Rings all the time. Honestly, Geography Lessons with John, not a bad title. Tolkien actually admitted that he wasn't a good geology person. Interesting. That'd be fun to include in a video. Napoleon, Farazone, 100%. That is actually it. You kind of nailed it. I'm reading way too many books at the same time. That's the truth. Also, everyone like to stream. Audio's bitrate is not the recommended bitrate. Every once in a while I get a message on that. I don't know. 201. Just happened. Why was my bitrate at 0? That doesn't make sense. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. All right, let's keep reading. The marshes and bogs had spread wider and wider on the side. Paths had vanished, and many a rider and wanderer too, if they had tried to find the lost ways across. What's that area in it goes into Venezuela, right where the Panama Canal kind of is, right before it gets into the south. What's that area called? That like you can't cross it, like humans can't really ever cross it. It's really difficult. I think only like a handful of people have ever crossed it. What's it called? The Darien Gap. Thank you. The Darien Gap. I have a book called The Atlas of Tolkien, but apparently it's very controversial, by David Day. Darien Gap. That's what I was talking about. Thank you. Feels like the Darien Gap right now. The elf road through the wood, which the dwarves had followed on the advice of Beorn, now came to a doubtful and little used end at the eastern edge of the forest. Only the river offered any longer a safe way from the skirts of Mirkwood in the north to the mountain-shadowed plains beyond, and the river was guarded by the Wood Elves' king. So you see, Bilbo had come in the end by the only road that was any good. It might have some comfort to Mr. Baggins, shivering on the barrels, if he had known the news of this had reached Gandalf far away, and given him great anxiety. So you see, Bilbo had come in the end by the only road that was any good. It might have been some comfort to Mr. Baggins, shivering on the barrels, if he had known that news of this had reached Gandalf far away, and was given him great anxiety. And he was in fact finishing his other business, which does not come into this tale, and getting ready to come in search of Thorin's company, but Bilbo did not know it. Wait, pencil. Bilbo had come in the end by the only road that was any good. So why is Gandalf stressing about that? Thanks for no spoilers. I appreciate you. Okay, I'll look up the Atlas of Middle Earth after. Wait, why is Gandalf stressing about the road that they took? He doesn't know they hit the best route. Oh, interesting. Gandalf heard that the forest road was bad now, so he didn't even. Oh, interesting. So Gandalf is rushing back to try to go save them, but he doesn't. So he doesn't know. Oh, might have been some comfort if he had known the news of this had reached Gandalf far away and given him. Huh. Okay. Interesting. All he knew was that the river seemed to go on and on and on forever, and he was hungry, and had a nasty cold in the nose, and did not like the way the mountains seemed to frown at him and threaten him as it drew ever nearer. After a while, however, the river took a more southerly course, and the mountain receded again. And at last, late in the day, the shores grew rocky. The river gathered all its wandering waters together into a deep and rapid flood, and they swept along at great speed. The sun had set when turning another sweeping when wait, the sun had set when turning another sweep toward the east, the forest river rushed into the long lake. The long lake. Map of Middle Earth. Huh. That's weird. Doesn't really look like a lake. It looks just like a river. I guess that's why it's called the Long Lake. Okay, on the map that I have, it looks like what's the word called for? I guess it's like a lake with an island in the middle, but it looks like a divulgence in the river. Looks like the river just splits and then meets again. What's that called? That's what. Wait, Caer Andros was that? What's the? Wait, no, wait, hold on. What's the fortress called? What's the Rathdin Inn? An ayat. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Man, you guys are the greatest. This is the best. This is the best reading experience ever. You guys got to try this out. Just have a bunch of people who can answer any of your questions as you're reading. It's like there's no rival to this. It's just the best. I love it. It's called The River Running. Ooh, this is actually a pretty detailed map of Mirkwood that I've never seen before. Lots of spiders. Is there something that says woodmen? Do the woodmen live in Mirkwood? Are people still dwell in Mirkwood besides the elves? Elven King's Halls, the Forest River, Forest Road, the Elf Path. Huh, this is a cool map. That's where they cross the river. Oh, this is really cool, actually. I love this. I could stare at this for a while. Sorry, let me show you the map. It's like kind of dark. I don't know if you could be able to see it. Just the beginning of the one in the Hobbit. Yeah, this is the normal Hobbit map, I think. But there's like still things in here. Like, look, where does it say? It says Woodman right here and right here. Woodman. It looks like, yeah, it does kind of look on the outskirts a little bit like I guess the foothills. What's like what's the foothill is to mountain as what is to forest? A lot of geological questions today. Yeah, it is good. It is a good Hobbit map. I got to be honest. I do like that Hobbit map. Oh, Christopher Tolkien drew that map. Cute. I love that. Woodmen were mentioned shortly after the Misty Mountains. The goblins had planned to raid them. Oh, cool. Did not connect that. Cool. Hmm. All right, let's keep reading. Source of the cradles that Gollum raided. Yikes! That's terrifying to think about. But yeah, kinda, probably. Ugh. All right, where are we? Where are we? Here we go. The sun had set when turning with another sweep toward the east. The forest river rushed into the long lake. There it had a wide mouth, with stony cliff-like gates at either side, whose feet were piled with shingles. The long lake. Bilbo had never imagined that any water that was not the sea could look so big. It was so wide that the opposite shores looked small and far, but it was so long that its northerly end, which pointed toward the mountain, could not be seen at all. Only from the map did Bilbo know that away up there, where the stars of the Wain were already twinkling, the running river came down into the lake from Dale. And with the forest river filled with deep waters, what must once have been a great deep rocky valley. At the southern end, the doubled waters poured out again over high waterfalls and ran away hurriedly to unknown lands. In the still evening air, the noise of the falls could not be heard, or could be heard like a distant roar. Not far from the mouth of the forest river was the strange town he heard the elves speaking of in the king's cellars. It was not built on the shore, though there were a few huts and buildings there, but right out on the surface of the lake, protected from the swirl of the entering river by a promontory of rock which formed a calm bay. A great bridge made of wood ran out to where, on huge piles made of forest trees, was built a busy wooden town. Not a town of elves, but of men, who still dared to dwell here under the shadow of the distant Dragon Mountain. They still throve on the trade that came up the great river from the south and was carted past the falls to their town. But in the great days of old, when Dale in the north was rich and prosperous, they had been wealthy and powerful. And there had been fleets of boats on the waters, and some were filled with gold, and some with warriors and armor. And there had been wars and deeds, which were now only a legend. The rotting piles of a greater town could still be seen among the shores, when the waters sank in a drought. But men remembered little of that, though some still sang old songs of the dwarf kings under the mountain, Thror and Thrain of the race of Durin, and the coming of the dragon and the fall of the lords of Dale. Some sang too that Thror and Thrain would come back one day, and gold would flow in rivers through the mountain gates, and that all the land would be filled with new song and new laughter. But this pleasant legend did not much affect their daily business. Now this is interesting. Some sang too. Okay, so here we go. But men remembered little of all that, though some still sang songs of old, of the dwarf kings under the mountain, Thror and Thrain and the race of Durin, and the coming of the dragon, and the fall of the lords of Dale. Some sang too that Thror and Thrain would come back one day, and gold would flow in rivers through the mountain gates, and all that land would be filled with new song and new laughter. Is that going to be true? Like, I know that the movies are. I'm like deleting the movies out of my head, but someone gave me the image this week of the Hobbit movies where Thorin is rafting in the little wheelbarrow on the molten gold. Is gold going to come pouring out in a molten form of Erebor? I don't think so. That seems like I don't think Tolkien would write that. Maybe he would. I don't know. That feels weirdly prophetic to me. That's like the thing that I like Tolkien when he throws things like that in there. Gold does not behave that way. That's like a very Tolkien answer right there. I love that. No. Gold doesn't do that. Let's think through this logically. You can't Scrooge McDuck. Yeah, it's commerce for sure, but I was wondering if I've read too much George R. R. Martin right now. There's always two meanings to something. As soon as the raft of barrels came in sight, as soon as the raft of barrels came in sight, boats rowed out from the piles of the town, and voices hailed the raft steerers. Then ropes were cast and oars were pulled, and soon the raft was drawn out of the current of the forest river and towed away around the high shoulder of the rock into the little bay of Lake Town. There it was moored not far from the shoreward head of the great bridge. Soon men would come up from the south and take some of the casks away, and others would fill with goods. They would fill with goods they had brought to be taken back up the stream to the wood elf's home. In the meanwhile, the barrels were left afloat while the elves of the raft and the boatmen went to feast in Lake Town. They would have been surprised if they could have seen what happened down by the shore. After they had gone, and the shades of the night had fallen, or they would have been surprised after they had gone and the shades of night had fallen. First of all, a barrel was cut loose by Bilbo and pushed to the shore and opened. Groans came from inside, and out crept a most unhappy dwarf. Wet straw was in his draggled beard, and he was so sore and stiff, so bruised and buffeted he could hardly stand or stumble through the shallow water to lie groaning on the shore. That was a great sentence. Listen to this sentence. Wet straw was in his draggled beard. He was so sore and stiff, so bruised and buffeted, he could hardly stand or stumble through the shallow water to lie groaning on the shore. That's like a very poetic sentence right there. That just tastes good in the mouth. I love good tasting sentences. He had a famished and savage look, like a dog that has been chained and forgotten in a kennel for a week. It was Thorin. Wow, lucky guess that he picked Thorin first. It was Thorin, but you could have only told it by his golden chain, and by the color of his now dirty and tattered sky blue hood, with its tarnished silver tassel. It was some time before he would be even polite to the Hobbit. Well, are you alive or are you dead? Asked Bilbo quite crossly. Perhaps he had forgotten that he had at least one good meal more than the dwarves, and also his use of his arms and legs, not to speak of a greater allowance of air. Are you still in prison, or are you free? If you want food, and if you want to go on this silly adventure, it's yours after all, and not mine. You had better slap your arm and rub your legs and try to help me get the others out while there's a chance. I love Bilbo. Suck it up, dude. And it is really interesting because, like, okay, so I would, okay. Who's in the worst position? I would probably say the dwarves are in the worst position. I would probably rather be Bilbo in this than the dwarves. I would rather be. I mean, Bilbo's cold. He's always wet. He's like miserable, but at least he's not tucked into this mini little place. I'd probably rather be Bilbo, but Bilbo is like silently suffering, not really able to like get a balance on this thing, and just like invisible and just barely. Like they probably think that his time was a lot easier than theirs. He was just like, floating dry and nice on top of this thing. But Bilbo wasn't. He was like miserable on top of that thing. He couldn't really get his balance. He was wet. He did have some food, but that was about it. He was just cold, wet, and miserable. I'd still rather be Bilbo, but they don't know what Bilbo has suffered to get them out and what he suffered to get them there. Thorin, of course, saw the sense of this. So after a few more groans, he got up and helped the hobbit as well as he could. In the darkness, floundering in the cold water, they had a difficult and very nasty job of finding which were the right barrels. Knocking outside and calling only, discovered about 6 dwarves that could answer. Ooh, we're building it up. Are one of these dwarves going to be dead? These were unpacked and helped ashore, where they sat or lay muttering and moaning. They were so soaked and bruised and cramped that they could hardly yet realize their release, or be properly thankful for it. Dwalin and Balin were 2 of the most unhappy. And it was no good asking them to help. Bifur and Bofur were less knocked about and drier, but they lay down and would do nothing. Fili and Kili, however, who were very young, for dwarves, and had also been packed more neatly with plenty of straw into smaller casks, came out more or less smiling, with only a bruise or 2, and a stiffness that soon wore off. I hope I never smell the smell of apples again, said Fili. My tub was full of it. To smell apples everlastingly when you can scarcely move and are cold and sick with hunger is maddening. I could eat anything in the wide world now, for hours on end, but not an apple. With the willing, that's a sad thing, because I could eat apples all day. Apples are the one food that I really never get sick of. I love apples. Man, give me a good apple every single day. I could eat an apple. I could eat apples all day long. Good apple pie. He had so many things that he could make. Apple sauce, apple pie, shrimp, barbecue shrimp gumbo. Catching up on chat. First time barrel. That's a whole different channel idea. We could do everything that they do in the Lord of the Rings and in the Hobbit. We could ride down a river in a barrel, packed with apples and hay and straw, and see if I want to eat an apple after. I still think I would want to eat an apple after. Apples are delicious. Pizza barrel would be kind of nice. With the willing help of Fili and Kili, Thorin and Bilbo at last discovered the remainder of the company and got them out. Poor fat Bombur was asleep or senseless. Dori, Nori, Ori, Owen, and Glowin were waterlogged and seemed only half alive. They had to be carried one by one and laid helpless on the shore. Well, here we are, said Thorin. And I suppose we ought to thank our stars and Mr. Baggins. I am sure he has the right to expect it, though I wish he could have arranged a more comfortable journey. Still, all very much at your service once more, Mr. Baggins. No doubt we shall feel properly grateful when we are fed and recovered. In the meanwhile, what's next? This is so interesting how the leadership of this journey has just changed. Before this, all the dwarves were slowly gravitated toward Bilbo as leader. But now you have Thorin who is doing this. The person who they were discounting, and this is like a lesson for kids. This is such a good lesson for kids. People are going to look down on you because you're small and you're young and you're tiny. But now Thorin, the leader of this group, is looking at Bilbo going, hey, what's next? It's crazy. Shouldn't be looked down upon. I love that. Yeah, we're watching Bilbo become the main character in real time. It's crazy. It's so fun. I suggest Lake Town, said Bilbo. What else is there? Nothing else could, of course, be suggested. So leaving the others, Thorin and Fili and Kili and the Hobbit went along the shores to the great bridge. There they were guards, at the head of it, or there were guards at the head of it. But they were not keeping very careful watch, for it was so long since they had any real need, except for occasional squabbles about river tolls. They were friends with the wood elves. Other folks were far away, and some of the younger people in the town openly doubted the existence of any dragon in the mountain, and laughed at the graybeards and Gammers, who said that they had seen him flying in the sky in their young days. That being so, it is not surprising that the guards were drinking and laughing by a fire in their hut, and did not hear the noise of the unpacking of the dwarves or the footsteps of the four scouts. Their astonishment was enormous when Thorin Oakenshield stepped in through the door. "Who are you, and what do you want?" they shouted, leaping to their feet and groping for weapons. "Thorin, son of Thrain, son of Thror, king under the mountain," said the dwarf in a loud voice. And he looked it, in spite of his torn clothes and draggled hood. Draggled? I haven't encountered that word too often. I like it. The gold gleamed on his neck and waist. His eyes were dark and deep. That's another great sentence. Tolkien's written, I mean, he always writes great sentences, but every once in a while in chapters, I just feel like I notice how brilliant his sentences are. The gold gleamed on his neck and waist. His eyes were dark and deep. And I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. Who wrote that? You shall all know that. Everyone? Anyone? Everyone? Who wrote that? Bilbo will grow on you for sure. Yeah, good old Frost. Good old Robbie. Learning why you like Bilbo most out of the hobbits we're introduced to. Nemo, Bilbo or Frodo for you? Bedraggled. Thank you. That actually helps me out. It's usually bedraggled. I've seen that word. Draggled versus bedraggled. Bedraggled. Ooh, just finishing a hike. I love that. Interesting. Bilbo over Frodo. What about the rest of you guys? Bilbo or Frodo? I know. That was an easy one. I got to come up with more difficult poems. Bilbao. The four from Lord of the Rings are just better. Maybe. Bilbo is rising in my ranks very quickly. I really like him. But it's all recency bias. When I finish and when I reread each of these stories like 50 times, then I'll come up with a definitive answer on who's better. I have come back. I wish to see the master of your town. Then there was tremendous excitement. Some of the more foolish ran out of the hut as if they expected the mountain to go golden in the night and all the waters of the lake to turn yellow right away. The captain of the guard came forward. "And who are these?" he asked, pointing to Fili and Kili and Bilbo. "The sons of my father's daughter," answered Thorin. "Fili and Kili, of the race of Durin, and Mr. Baggins, who has traveled west with us, or has traveled with us out of the west." That line feels interesting too. He has traveled with us out of the west, like true, legitimately true. But it's like he's an angel. It's like he's a wizard coming out of the west, helping them out with everything they need. "If you come in peace, lay down your arms," said the captain. "We have none," said Thorin. And it was true enough. Their knives had been taken from them by the wood elves. And the great sword Orcrist, too. No! Bummer. What happens to Orcrist? I don't think there's any mention of it in Lord of the Rings. I was wondering, like, does the character get it? Does Legolas have Orcrist now? Yeah, I feel like I knew Fili and Kili kind of were Thorin's nephews. I think that mentioned that in... Didn't it mention that somewhere else? I don't know why I knew that, but I feel like I knew that. Ooh, this is a read and find out? Okay. It is spoken of in Lord of the Rings? Now I gotta rack my brain. It's gotta be in the Council of Elrond, no? Huh. I gotta try to remember that. It's got to be in the Council of Elrond chapter, I'm guessing. It's a blink and you miss it moment. Hmm. All right, let's keep reading. Taking Orcris too. I'm just gonna think about that all the time now. We write a note. What happened to Orcris? We have none, said Thorin. Oh yeah, I read that. Bilbo had his short sword hidden as usual, but he said nothing about it. We have no need of weapons. Who return at last? We have no need of weapons. Who return at last to our own, as spoken of old. As spoken of old. Nor could we fight against so many. Take us to your master. He is at a feast, said the captain. And then all the more reason for taking us to him, burst in Fili, who was getting impatient at these solemnities. We are worn and famished after our long road, and we have sick comrades. Now make haste and let us have no more words of your master, or your master may have something to say to you. Follow me then, said the captain. And with 6 men about them, he led them over the bridge and through the gates and into the marketplace of the town. This was a wide circle of quiet water, surrounded by the tall piles on which were built the greater houses, and by long wooden quays with many steps and ladders going down on the surface of the lake. From one great hall shone many lights, and there came the sound of many voices. They passed its doors and stood blinking in the light, looking at the long tables filled with folk. I am Thorin, son of Thrain, son of Thror, king under the mountain. I return, cried Thorin in a loud voice from the door, before the captain could say anything. All leaped to their feet. The master of the town sprang from his great chair, but none rose in greater surprise than the raft of the elves who were sitting at the lower end of the hall. Pressing forward before the master's table, they cried, "These are prisoners of our king that have escaped, wandering vagabond dwarves that could not give any good account of themselves, sneaking through the wood and molesting our people." Wow, that is a high accusation. That's crazy. Attila, thanks for the 250. Have you noticed that every name in the Hobbit is so vague? Elven King, Lake Town, Master of Lake Town, Forest River, Long Lake, Underhill. It's a good essay. There's a good essay in that, actually. The generic names in... Because it's so different in The Lord of the Rings. Everything has a name. Everything has a history. That's a really good observation. I love that. Thorin was despoiled by Thranduil. Yeah, I guess he built the histories later, but still very different. I don't know if going back, like I think didn't he try to rewrite The Hobbit in an adult version, but it just didn't work. I wonder if he would rewrite The Hobbit if he were alive still, if he would include more names and places. I don't think so, because I think this isn't one caters to kids more. Like they just want the main meat of the story. They don't necessarily care about all the histories of it. Knowing that stuff is more fun for adults later, but it doesn't necessarily make for a better children's story. But specificity always does make a better story. But as far as a children's story, I don't know. I don't necessarily think so. There does have to be some generic element to it. That's a really good observation. I like that. I'm going to make that into an essay and talk about Tolkien trying to rewrite it in an adult version. He never fully got to it. I think he tried. Didn't he try one chapter and was so frustrated by it and didn't like it. All the men of Lake Town have regular dealings with working elves, not nobility. They are not particularly honored guests that they are at the bottom of the hall. Yeah, that's true. That's a good observation too. They're sitting at the bottom of the hall, lower end of the hall. Interesting. The Doylan reason. Hobbit was written for children. The Watsonian reason. Bilbo probably hoped he was writing for hobbits. Those for kids and complicated. Yeah. Complicated names are hard to understand. Honestly, I was thinking about writing an essay on that for Brandon Sanderson stuff because naming of characters for Brandon Sanderson is sometimes crazy. Naming characters is hard in a way that doesn't sound like you just came up with something in like 2 seconds. Like the naming of the characters for A Game of Thrones and for The Lord of the Rings, even though they're like Tolkien came up with them and made up with them, they don't seem out of place. But for some reason, for some of Brandon Sanderson stuff, I guess until I get to the end of some of his stuff, they do sometimes seem like they just came off the top of his dome and he was like, Shallan. You know? It feels like it doesn't fit necessarily, but maybe I'm just not used to the world enough. I think there has to be like some more familiarity with the world. The naming of cats is a difficult matter. Did Tolkien write that? Wasn't that like a poem or something like that he wrote? Honestly, naming animals is hard. It took me like a week to come up with Wes's name. He was initially going to be Rusty. Initially going to be either Rusty, because he was rust-colored, and he's not rust-colored anymore, so good thing I didn't call him that. He was either going to be Rusty or Copper. I was going to go with one of those names. But then I was thinking, and I was going to call him Rusty. I called him Rusty for a few days, and then all of a sudden, oh, it's a T.S. Eliot thing. Thank you. All of a sudden, I was like, sitting thinking, and then my nephew in the other room goes, "What about Wesley?" And I go, "That's a great name," and it just kind of stuck. Yeah, Sanderson has the most random names. Roman and I have talked about the cultural uniformity in Mistborn. You totally. Nemo, post your channel too. Great discussions on some Sanderson work. I'm excited for you guys to get to Way of Kings because it's gonna be fun. I'm probably gonna be through like a good portion through the series when you guys get to that. If you guys get to that, I don't know what your next endeavor is. I hope it's that. The fat cat on the mat. Yeah, that was T.S. Eliot. Call this alien salami booger. George Lucas is not a very creative, not a great writer. I think we all kind of know that. Stormlight Archive feels alien to me. There's like the names in it are strange. There's some that like make sense. Like the Alethi names to me sometimes make sense, even though they're a little strange. They still kind of make sense. Dalinar, Adolin, Kaladin. I don't mind those. Seth, I don't mind. Like Seth with a Z, I don't mind that much. But there's like a bunch of other ones that's just a bunch of vowels just eliminated from that. And it's just all consonants just squished together. I don't know. Anyway, let's keep reading. Thank you for that donation, Attila. And wait, he doesn't even use the name Erebor? I need to do a quick search of that. Do I have the Hobbit pulled up? Hold on. That's worth pausing and searching. How do you spell Erebor? Wait, is there an accent on Erebor? Because is there an accent? Because if this is the case, Erebor is not used once in the entirety of The Hobbit, which feels like it needs its own video essay for. There's no accent anywhere? I just did a search. This is The Hobbit. There and back again. I just did a quick Control F. There is no Erebor used once. That's crazy to me. This would be the whole essay. Just me going, guys, I just did a quick search
on Erebor in The Hobbit. It's not used once. There's other things that you could talk about than that. I would break it down into like, Tolkien being able to craft a world later. Maybe that has to do with like world building and like the difference he writes from children's literature to now. That's going to be in the larger essay that I write about generic names in Lord of the Rings. That's so cool. That is so cool. Wow. This is fun. I wonder if he knew it was called Erebor, though. I feel like he did. And it makes sense. Is Erebor the Sindarin name for the Lonely Mountain? Like, that sounds a bit more Sindarin. It wouldn't be the Khuzdul name, would it? Because we wouldn't even know that. Dang, no Shire either? That's crazy. That blows my mind. That's wild. Does Hobbiton get mentioned? Hobbiton once. Bilbo Baggins, Esquire of Bag End, Underhill, Hobbiton. Wait, in the map, does it say the Lonely Mountain or Erebor? Lonely Mountain. It says the Lonely Mountain. Okay, so Erebor is just a kingdom in the Lonely Mountain. Okay, that makes sense. That helps me. Thank you. Huh. It's like people who live in more rural areas. I'm going back to town. They don't have to be specific. There's only one close by. Honestly, yeah. Very like rural-ish. That's a good comparison. I like that. All right, sorry. That was enough distraction. Let's keep reading. Oh, I love good excursies like that. Oh, that's so fun. All right, here we go. So they're at the table. At the table, these are prisoners of our king that have escaped, wandering vagabond dwarves that could not give any good account of themselves, sneaking through the woods and molesting our people. Is this true? Asked the master. As a matter of fact, he had thought it far more likely than the return of the king under the mountain, if any such person had ever existed. It is true that we were wrongfully waylaid by the elven king and imprisoned without cause, and we journeyed back to our own land. As we journeyed back to our own lands, answered Thorin. But lock nor bar may hinder the homecoming spoken of old, nor is this town in the wood elves' realm. I speak to the master of the town, of the men of the lake, not to the raftsmen of the king. Go ahead, Thorin. Have your moment. Then the master hesitated and looked from one to the other. The elven king was very powerful in those parts, and the master wished for no enmity with him. Nor did he think much of old songs, giving his mind to trade in tolls, to cargoes and gold, to which habit he owed his position. That sounds like a poem. Like, there's such a rhythm behind that sentence. This is one of those days where I'm falling in love again with the sentence structure of J.R. Tolkien. Listen to this. The Elven King was very powerful in those parts, and the master wished for no enmity with him. Nor did he think much of old songs, giving his mind to trade and tolls, to cargoes and gold, to which habit he owed his position. Ah, it's so nice. It just is like, tasty. Others were of different mind, however, and quickly the matter was settled without him. The news had spread from the doors of the hall like fires through all the town. People were shouting inside the halls and outside it. The quays were thronged with hurrying feet. Some began singing snatches of old songs concerning the return of the king under the mountain. That it was Thror's son, that it was Thror's grandson, not Thror himself, that had come back, did not bother them at all. Others took up the song, and rolled loud and high, and it rolled loud and high over the lake. The king beneath the mountains, the king of carven stone, the lords of silver fountain, the lord of silver fountain shall come into his own. His crown shall be upholden, his harp shall be restrung, his whole shall echo golden, the songs of yore resung. The wood shall weave, the woods shall wave on mountains, and grass beneath the sun. His wealth shall flow in fountains, and the rivers golden run. The streams shall run in gladness, the lakes shall shine and burn. All sorrow fail and sadness at the mountain king's return. Little greedy people right here. Yeah, some internal rhymes. Love me some of that. So they sang. We're very like that. Only there was a great deal more of it, and there was much shouting as well as the music of harps and fiddles mixed up with it. Indeed, such excitement had not been known in the town in the memory of the oldest grandfather. The wood elves themselves began to wonder greatly, and even to be afraid. They did not know, of course, how Thorin had escaped, and they began to think that their king might have made a serious mistake. And as for the master, he saw there was nothing else for it but to obey the general clamor. For the moment, at any rate. And he pretended to believe that Thorin was what he said. So he gave up to him his own chair, and set Fili and Kili beside him in places of honor. Even Bilbo was given a seat at the high table, and no explanation of where he came in. No songs had alluded to him, even in the obscurest way, was asked for in the general bustle. Soon afterward, the other dwarves were brought into the town amid scenes of astonished enthusiasm. They were all doctored and fed, and housed and pampered in the most delightful and satisfactory fashion. A large house was given up to Thorin and his company. Boats and rowers were put at their service, and crowds sat and sang songs all day. Sat outside and sang songs all day, or cheered if any dwarf showed so much as his nose. Some of the old songs were old ones, but some of them were quite new, and spoke confidently of the sudden death of the dragon and the cargoes of rich presents coming down the river to Lake Town. These were inspected largely by the master, and it did not particularly please the dwarves, but in the meantime, they were well contented, and they quickly grew fat and strong again. Indeed, within a week, they were quite recovered, fitted out in fine cloth of their proper colors, with beards combed and trimmed in proud steps. Thorin looked and walked as if his kingdom was already regained, and Smaug chopped up into little pieces. That is so ominous. This is dangerous right now. Then, as he said, the dwarves' good feelings toward the little hobbit grew stronger every day. There were no groans or grumbles. They drank his health, and they patted him on the back, and made a great fuss of him, which was just as well, for he was not feeling particularly cheerful, and he had not forgotten the look of the mountain, nor the thought of the dragon. And he had, beside, a shocking cold. For 3 days he sneezed and coughed, but he could not go out. And even after his speech at banquets were limited to "Thank you very much." This is really funny because I want to talk about the World Cup for a quick second. Watching the World Cup, it's funny how teams prepare and they don't prepare. Like when the U.S. men's national team just played Belgium and we lost to Belgium, there was an error in that game that we weren't really well prepared for it. that there were so many other distractions that everyone was lauding praise on them. So they thought they were going to go and beat Belgium, and they thought it was going to be like glory and great renown. There was only like 1 or 2 players who were like a Bilbo, who kind of came ready to play and were like nervous of what's going to happen later. Like there's a severity that they need to have in order to accomplish the goal. Like this is essentially celebrating what your goal is when you're 100 yards from the finish line and when you haven't really done it yet. Like this is the tortoise and the hare. Like they need to finish the journey. Like it's good. They've had a week to recover and rest. Honestly, if I'm their coach, if I'm Gandalf, I'm furious that they're in Lake Town receiving all this praise and admiration. And everyone's like, oh, you've already defeated Smaug. This is great. This is lovely. This is perfect. I'm going, no, get out of here. Go live in the woods and be uncomfortable until you've retaken your homeland. Because there's like a certain hungering that they should have to retake their homeland that they probably had when they were in Mirkwood and other places, because they're hungry and they're cold and they're tired and they just like they have like an unquenchable fire to get back to their homeland. But now Bilbo's the only one that's really afraid. Sorry if you have a cold right now. This is referenced in his 111th birthday party. Interesting. Shadows of the Past. What part is this is quoted? Allergies. Bummer. Yeah, and the master choosing, honestly, it's a great point too. The master choosing, it's interesting with the master's decision because he's making a worthwhile gamble here to some extent. He can cover his tracks in a little bit. Because essentially he can be like, I was hoping that they were going to uncover Erebor. And if they uncovered Erebor, then the Wood Elves would probably be rich because of association. They'd be close by and they could probably start a lot of shipping, and they'd have a lot more goods that they can ship out, export and import. So it would probably cause a lot of wealth for them as well because they're nearby it. So if I'm the master of this town, of Lake Town right now, I'm going, we could have been rich. I took a gamble. Maybe it didn't work out, but it was a worthwhile gamble. So let's still be in good relationship and still, trade with each other. Oh, he says, thank you very much at the end of his feast. That's so cute. Wait, I want to actually kind of find that. Is my Fellowship of the Ring copy accessible? Hey, Wes. Wes, we're not going quite yet. We'll go soon, though. Don't worry. Prologue. Wes, you want to come say hi to everyone? Is it in Shadow of the Past or in a Long Expected Party? Where does he say this? It's in the party chapter? Does he say it at the end? Or does he say it at the beginning of his journey? I know, Wes like never shows up on camera when I'm doing this right here. He's always a little... Here, I'll take a picture of him and you guys can see him. It's in the speech in his birthday party. Look at this cutie. This is what he's doing right now. That's Wes, just looking at me, waiting for a walk. I love that dog. He's the best. It's at the start of the speech. Okay, let me look at the start of the speech. Oh man, even opening this book, it makes me sad. I can't wait to get back to it. I want to find this. Sorry. We're only like 1.5 pages from being done, so just give me a break to find this. It's at the end of his speech. He's talking with Gandalf here. Here we go. Is that the beginning of a speech, right? You said at the beginning? My dear people. I'm an 11-1 today. Is it in the middle? I don't know half of you half as well as I should like, and I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve. If I may be allowed to refer to ancient history as the anniversary of my arrival by barrel at Escaroth in the Long Lake. So he'd arrived at his birthday. He slipped his memory on that occasion. Interesting. I was only 51 then. The banquet was very splendid, however, though I had a bad cold. I remember, and I could only say, thank you very much. I now repeat it more correctly. Thank you very much for coming to my little party. That is so sweet. I can't wait to revisit Lord of the Rings. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. But we have a lot to do before we get there. Yeah, it was a short speech. All right, let's keep reading. Got a little bit left. A page and a half. In the meanwhile, the Wood Elves had gone back up the forest river with their cargoes, and there was great excitement in the king's palace. I have never heard what happened to the chief of the guards and the butler. Nothing, of course, was ever said about keys or barrels while the dwarves stayed in Lake Town. And Bilbo was careful never to become invisible. Still, I dare say, more was guessed than was known, though doubtless Mr. Baggins remained a bit of a mystery. In any case, the king knew now of the dwarves' errand, or thought he did, and he said to himself, very well, we'll see. No treasure will come back through Mirkwood without my having something to say in the matter. But I expect they will all come to a bad end, and serve them right. He at any rate did not believe in dwarves fighting and killing dragons like Smaug. Does he have a point? Don't answer this question. This is a hypothetical question that I'm just going to ask in the general vicinity of you guys. Has any dwarf ever killed a dragon? Elves kill dragons. Has Thranduil ever killed a dragon? Huh. Interesting. And he strongly suspected attempted burglary, or something like it. Which shows he was a wise elf, and wiser than the men of the town, though not quite right, as you shall see in the end. He sent out his spies about the shores of the lake and as far northward toward the mountain as they would go, and waited. At the end of a fortnight, Thorin began to think of departure, while the enthusiasm still lasted in the town. While the enthusiasm still lasted in the town, was the time to get help. It would not do to let everything cool down with delay. So he spoke to the master and his counselors, or his conciliars, and said that soon he and his company must go on toward the mountain. Then for the first time, the master was surprised and a little frightened. And he wondered if Thorin was, after all, really a descendant of the old kings. He had never thought that the dwarves would actually dare to approach Smaug. But he believed they were frauds who would sooner or later be discovered and be turned out. He was wrong. Thorin, of course, was really the grandson of the king under the mountain. And there is no knowing what a dwarf will not dare to do for revenge or recovery of his own. Ooh, what a good line, too. There's no knowing what a dwarf will not dare to do for the revenge or recovery of his own. This made me interested for why the master even did this in the first place. Like, if the master thought these guys were frauds, that they were going to be figured out, then why is he compromising his relationship with the Mirkwood elves in order to do this? Because the people are happy? Is he just a man of the people? Huh. Yeah, it's definitely politics, public opinion. Yeah, public opinion. That's a great answer. He is a man of his treasury. There's the answer. But the master was not sorry at all to let them go. They were expensive to keep. And their arrival had turned things still into a long holiday in which business is at a standstill. Let them go and bother Smog and see how he welcomes them, he thought. Certainly, O Thorin, Thrain's son, Thor's son, was what he said. You must claim your own. The hour is at hand, spoken of old. What can we help? What help we can offer shall be yours, and we trust to your gratitude when your kingdom is regained. What a politician! This is Tolkien writing a funny politician right now. This guy has to be one of the most politically minded people in the book so far, even in anything that Tolkien's written. It's funny, like the politicians are like not the great dudes, not the people who are good at running a kingdom. So one day, although autumn was now getting far on, and the winds were cold, and the leaves were falling fast, 3 large boats left Lake Town, laden with rowers, dwarves, Mr. Baggins, and many provisions. Horses and ponies had been sent round by circuitous paths to meet them at their appointed landing place. The master and his conciliars bade them farewell from the great steps of the town hall that went down to the lake. People sang in the quays and out of the windows. The white oars dipped and splashed, and off they went north up the lake on the last stage of the long journey. The only person thoroughly unhappy was Bilbo. Love that. This is everything wrong with their journey in one chapter. Before this, they were of one mindset. Before this, they were on this journey. I would have believed in them to recapture Erebor. This chapter, I have no confidence in them to reclaim Erebor. The Lonely Mountain, sorry. The only person thoroughly unhappy was Bilbo. And he's unhappy for a different reason. Like, I mean, maybe the dwarves need to figure out how to be unhappy and unsatisfied. It's only like if like they have to desire it and want it. I'm curious how this is going to end. I don't know if like a desire and want would actually in the end be able to help you defeat a dragon. But it probably would. To some extent. Maybe a small little modicum it would move the table a little bit, but that's a great way to end a chapter. The only person thoroughly unhappy was Bilbo. Because Bilbo maybe knows in his mind, he's like, this is all going wrong. This doesn't seem like it's going to work. Wow. Good chapter. And it's called A Warm Welcome. I wonder if there's anything double meaning-ish in that. A warm welcome. The belly of the dragon. They're going into the belly of the dragon right now. It's warm in there. Huh. From Cliffa, we just finished. But we'll sit and chat for a little bit. Yeah, they really don't have a plan. They're just like rowing toward the lonely mountain, trying to figure it out as they go, which isn't going to work. Yeah, it's so funny at the beginning when the dwarves are all in Bilbo's house and when they just take their journey. It's like Bilbo's here, not really wanting to do anything, and these dwarves are so grand and so high, and they're so mighty. And Bilbo looks up to them, and they're like, "Man, these are the guys that they're gonna retake Erebor. This is an adventure. I'm going on in this adventure to watch this. This is like a once in a lifetime thing." And then all of a sudden, it just goes for the last few chapters, just goes completely the opposite. Where the dwarves, I think very lowly of the dwarves right now. They're pretty incompetent. And the only competent person is Bilbo. The only person who thinks straight and clearly is Bilbo. The only person who's doing anything is Bilbo in this. And it's fun too, because yeah, Brandybuck, part Brandybuck? That's Tukes. Yeah, and then part Baggins, and both of those sides are coming out. They will just drag on. Man, it's so good. Like, none of them are taking this journey that seriously, to be honest. They're all looking at the end goal, and they think they're just going to arrive at that naturally without, like, the hard work that they're putting in. They're not okay with discomfort. They're angry at Bilbo at every turn because Bilbo is essentially the only one he's the only one that's getting them to that journey. Yeah, that's a good point too. All they have is daggers. Like, what are they going out on this journey for? Like, they think this journey is going to be like a cakewalk. They're not really prepped in it in any way. And they get Orcrist later. This whole plan was like a farce. They did not plan for this at all. Yeah, they're kind of stupid. There was no plan from the beginning, totally. Honestly, and I'm kind of with you on that. That's a good lesson for kids right there. Wanting something isn't enough. You actually need a plan. You need to execute something. And I think this is kind of when Bilbo's realizing that they don't have a plan really at all. Bilbo's like, crap, what are they doing? Oh, Wessie. My dog is the best. I love my dog so much. I keep saying that, but he's just the best. He's licking his little paws now. Yeah, they did get some resupply from the lake guys, but I don't think they will get weapons from the lake people. Maybe they would get weapons from the lake people. Maybe we're going to get that in the next few chapters. Yeah, what are they going to do with Smaug? Which, I mean, part of the plan, part of the plan has to include going with the flow. Like, what was Gandalf's plan to get to Mordor? It's supposed to be like trust. Maybe the dwarves are learning that. Like, it just takes trust. You just keep going down this journey and like hope things work out. But really, they didn't have any plan. I think at least Gandalf had somewhat of a plan for where to go. Because you can see them, like, they're essentially just trusting in. Has a dwarf made any decision yet in this book ever for where they go and what they do? Gandalf has made every plan so far. And then when Gandalf is gone, now they look to Bilbo and they go, what's next? You can't. I'm gonna write this down. You can't retake the Lonely Mountain and defeat a dragon without a plan. And defeat without a plan. Never tickle a sleeping dragon. Anybody know what that's from? I'd be impressed. There's a few people who should know what that's from. I'd be impressed if you guys knew what that was from. Never tickle a sleeping dragon. Hey, ignorance, of course. I knew you were going to get it. It's from Harry Potter, but where in Harry Potter is that from? No, not just Gryffindor. Robert Frost, yeah. It's Hogwarts. The motto of Hogwarts. What is it in Latin? It's the Latin motto. Draco. something. I should know that off the top of my head, but imagine if it was. That would be great if I actually encounter that in The Hobbit and it's never tickle a sleeping dragon. Maybe Bilbo says that in one line. That would be so cool. I love that. I would love that so much. I don't think that's going to be the case, but you never know. The dragon never sleeps. Never try to reclaim a treasure and a kingdom from a sleeping dragon. Darn right. Darn right. Drawing, sleeping, never tickle. Yeah, what are they gonna do? Burglarize it? Just take it one piece at a time and run out the door, and like that's gonna work. And they're trying to read. Are they? Wait, hold on. Refresh my mind. Are they trying? They're trying to reclaim their homeland or the treasure from their homeland? They're trying to reclaim Erebor. So they do have to encounter Smaug to some extent. I think maybe what they're hoping is that they get to Erebor and Smaug is just dead. I think that that's essentially what their goal is. They're like hoping. What's up, buddy? Come here. Come say hi to everyone. Whenever I say that, you never come. Come here. Come here. You're gonna lay down, aren't you? Yep. Lays down. He gives a big stretch and he lays down. There's a stated goal and an actual goal. Yeah. Interesting stuff. I don't know what's going on, but it's strange. Thorin wanted to bring his curses home to Smaug. I don't think he hopes Smaug is dead. He hopes to get revenge on Smaug. Yeah, I think that's true. I think maybe the other doors are hoping that he's dead because they don't really want to deal with him. Maybe they're just not thinking about that much. They're only just thinking about what's next right in front of them. Bilbo is really the only one that's thinking a little bit more long-term about this. And that is like so necessary. If you're on a journey like this and you're not thinking long-term about what your actual goal is and like keeping your eye on the prize, you're going to get so distracted by all the things. That's what the dwarves do. They go on so many distracted little paths and they're like not really accomplishing what they're setting out to do. They'd be so incompetent. Without Gandalf, they would have failed immediately in the troll shaws. Without Bilbo, they would have so Gandalf leaves. I think honestly, the reason this is Bilbo. Okay, hold on. Gandalf is their chaperone through the first half of the book. Does Gandalf leave as soon as he realizes that the new chaperone is Bilbo and that Bilbo will take care of them? He doesn't leave before that for any other real goal of his own. Because in the Trollshaws, he was just going to scout the way ahead. Maybe? The dwarves were eaten. Imagine that's how The Hobbit ends. You know, it's funny. I really don't know how The Hobbit ends. I'm really excited to actually read the end of the story to figure out like what the ending of the story looks like. Because I think a lot of it is going to surprise me. Because I don't really know or understand anything in the... I don't remember the movie's ending that much. I know some of it, but I think it's very different for book to movie. So I'm curious how it's going to go. Well, yeah, that's what I'm kind of saying. Bilbo becomes a new Gandalf. Essentially, like, Gandalf leaves because he realizes that they actually have a leader now. Like, before that, Gandalf doesn't want to leave because I don't think he knows that there's like not a leader. There's not someone who is like has their eye on the prize. And then as soon as Bilbo, I mean, he leaves because Bilbo, yeah, I don't know. I got to think about that one more. Yeah, Gandalf left exactly when he meant to. That's a great point. Yeah, Gandalf's got some business to attend. He's got some other things. But we don't know what it is in The Hobbit. We know what it is in Lord of the Rings. Yeah, or honestly, that's a good point too. Gandalf's leaving forces his hand. He forces it almost puts Bilbo in a position where he's forced to become the leader of the group. Because maybe Bilbo's the one with common sense. He realizes that there is not going to be any leader. So he just has to become. that. Interesting stuff. I have so many thoughts and questions and feelings about this chapter. It just makes me wonder what happened to Orcrist. I want to think about that one for a quick second. Orcrist has to have been mentioned in the Council of Elrond chapter. Does someone bear Orcrist? My guess is that it was returned to Elrond. I feel like I should remember that. Do I want to scan through the count? Oh, this is Destiny, guys. I literally opened this and look what chapter I opened to. That was Fate. That was Fate. But I don't know if I want to. This is a long chapter. It would take me a long time to scan through this and find the word Orcrist. Don't scan. Okay, halt. I'm not going to do that. I'm not looking. I can't do it. Wood elves and the Imladris elves is different. Like, I don't quite understand that yet. I understand it to some degree, but not fully. And so, does someone like a Thranduil respect the leadership of an Elrond? And does he know that this guy is like greater? And does he... Yeah, the stream just had a hiccup on my end too. Okay, I'm glad we're back. Everyone refresh. It's not in the Council of Elrond. Okay, interesting. Like, I wonder if Thranduil would respect Elrond enough if he had the Sword of Orcrist to give it back. Or not give it back. Give it to, like, a superior. Or if he would keep it. It's explained rather confusingly in the Silmarillion. Okay. No, your internet didn't go out. That was weird. That was like a little blip. I didn't drop any frames, but it just said disconnected then connecting. That's probably just a YouTube issue. Every once in a while I run into this. All right, my questions will be answered eventually. We'll get to them. Wes, you're looking at me like you're ticked. You're ready to go for a walk. He was literally looking at me like this. His chin down in his chest. Angry. Yeah, lots of questions. Orcrist is one of my questions. Another one of my questions is, did a dwarf ever kill a dragon? I don't know. I feel like I remember I think some elves have killed dragons. Maybe not. They've killed Balrogs, right? Didn't why am I blanking on his name? Giga Chat of Elves. Who's the who's the Arwen impersonator? Why can't I think of his name? What the heck? I feel like I have memory issues. Yeah, Glorfindel. Thank you. Gosh. Golly, Glorfindel, the greatest. I need to sit and study these names again. Didn't Glorfindel kill a Balrog or something like that? I remember when we were talking about Glorfindel a while back, someone maybe let that slip. But I don't know any of the lore behind that, so I'm not looking at chat at all. But has any elf ever killed a dragon? Are there any dragon slayers out there? Has any dwarf ever killed a dragon? Why does Thorin think that he can kill a dragon? How delusional do you have to become to think that you can kill a dragon? Maybe this whole book is about the delusion of Thorin. Thinking that how revenge makes you delusional. And why Gandalf would take them on this quest in the first place. Someone had to have killed a dragon before, otherwise Gandalf wouldn't have taken them on this journey. Gandalf's not going, no one's ever killed a dragon, so therefore we're not going to do this quest because you're stupid. Someone had to have killed a dragon in Middle-earth history. So Gandalf knows it's possible. Maybe Gandalf doesn't like these dwarves that much, and he's hoping that they all die. That's the real dark part of this mission.
Yeah, I just gotta be patient and wait for the Silmarillion. I have way too many questions, but the Silmarillion, I'm sure, will answer the majority of my questions, which I can't wait to get to. We're gonna get to that at the end of the summer, early fall. We'll probably start in September because I think some of these chapters we're gonna do too. So like, let me thumb through this real quick, because like we're halfway. Like there's 20 chapters in this, but we're like 2/3 of the way through this book. Is there 19 chapters? I think 19. There's 19 chapters, and we're on chapter 10, going to chapter 11. Chapter 11 is short, but we can't do that in conjunction with the inside information chapter because that's long. So we'll do both of those chapters separate. And then chapter 13, Not at Home. Not at Home is somewhat, it's average. It's about as long as what we just read. A little shorter. Fire and Water. Like Fire and Water, those chapters are short. We might do those together. The Gathering of Clouds. That chapter's short. Thief in the Night is really short, so we'll probably do those chapters together. The Cloud Bursts. Yeah, there's some short chapters, so we might have to combine some of these. I'm really curious how this is going to end too. I'm excited. But then we'll get to the Silmarillion, and the Silmarillion will literally. I'm still guessing that the Silmarillion will be a chapter per month. Not just because there's going to be a lot to discuss in that, but because I'll probably slow down some of the essays at that point a little bit. I think I do too many essays on just do like too much. I think it's too much for people to watch all that. So maybe we'll do like 2-ish a week or something, and we'll pump them out like that. But we'll see. We'll figure it out as we get there. We'll get there when we get there. All right, guys, I'm going to go take my dog for a quick walk, and then I got to work for the rest of the night. Might be a late night of work for me. Pal, you came in just at the end. But bummer. All right, guys. Have a great day. Everyone say bye to Wes. And also say bye to Gladriel when I pop around the screen in a second. I'll see you guys in the next one. Yeah, glad you're here at the end of all things. The Quest of Erebor might be a good read after The Hobbit. Wait, what's the Quest of Erebor? Aren't we on the Quest of Erebor right now? Oh, 2 former students stay for a week. Love that. Enjoy. All right, guys. Wes is looking at me like I'm crazy. It's an unfinished shells. Yeah, let me know what else we should read something in between the Silmarillion and this. We'll get there when we get there, though. We'll figure it out. We still have some time. All right, guys. Have a great day. And say goodbye to Galadriel.